They told me my sins could be forgiven, though I knew from the moment the Arbites shackled me that forgiveness was never the point. The Imperium does not forgive. It consumes. If you are a heretic, you are burned. If you are a mutant, you are purged. If you are a criminal, you are put to work until your bones crack and your lungs collapse. And if you are truly unlucky, as I was, you are conscripted into a Penal Legion. That name is a mockery. It makes it sound as though we are soldiers, as though we stand in proud ranks beneath banners, fighting for honor or duty. The truth is uglier. We are not a legion, we refuse. We are the condemned hurled at the enemy until we break against them like rotten fruit. They call it redemption through service. We call it death on command. My crime hardly matters anymore, but I will tell it so that when my skull joins the Emperor's endless pile, at least some fragment of the truth remains. I stole from the administratum, not food, not coin, but time. I falsified a ledger so that my family might eat an extra ration. It was not rebellion, not treason, only desperation. But the Imperium has no tolerance for thieves, especially those who dare touch the ledgers. A single stroke of ink was enough to damn me. The Arbites dragged me from my home. My wife screamed. My children clung to me, but the Arbites' shock mauls silenced them. They shaved my head, branded my cheek with the mark of the condemned, and fitted the explosive collar around my neck. A crude device, but effective. One command from the overseers, one press of a trigger, and my head would scatter across the floor like spilled grain. They shipped us in chains, hundreds of us crammed into a transport hold that stank of piss and fear. Murderers, deserters, thieves, heretics, who had begged for mercy and been granted this twisted reprieve. We were herded like cattle, prodded with shock staves, reminded at every turn that we were not men, only ammunition. When the transport doors opened, we were marched out into the glare of floodlights. Commissars stood waiting, their bolt pistols gleaming, their eyes cold. Behind them loomed servitors, bearing racks of shock prods and vox casters. The commissar's voice boomed over us. You are the damned. You are the forgotten. But in his infinite mercy, the Emperor has granted you a chance to serve. You will fight until you die. And in dying, you will redeem yourselves. Do not think you may run. Do not think you may hide. Your collars will remind you. The only path left to you is forward, into the guns of the enemy. Serve well, and perhaps the Emperor will remember your names. Serve poorly, and I will erase you myself. None of us cheered. None of us wept. We only shuffled forward, knowing that our lives now belonged entirely to the meat grinder. You cannot understand the weight of the collar unless you have worn one. It is not only the metal pressing against your skin, the raw sores where it rubs, the stink of your own sweat trapped beneath it. It is the knowledge that your life no longer belongs to you. At any moment, at the whim of a faceless overseer, you may be obliterated without warning. They tell us the collars are necessary to ensure obedience. In truth, they are not for us at all. They are for the officers. They know we cannot be trusted, that without the collars we would turn our lascans on them instead of the enemy. The collars keep them safe. They keep us in line, and they remind us every waking moment that our survival is a gift, one that can be revoked with a whisper. Some men go mad from the knowledge. They claw at the collars until their fingers bleed, begging the overseers to end it. Others grow numb, moving through each day like automata, their will already dead. I am not sure which fate is worse, They threw us into the grinder as they always do. Not in the vanguard of the guard. Not in the disciplined ranks of the regulars. But in front of them. The first wave to cross no man's land. We were meant to draw fire to force the enemy to reveal their positions, to soak up their bullets so that the real soldiers might live. The commissar's whistle blew, and the collars chimed, a warning tone that rattled in our skulls. We scrambled over the trench wall, laskins clutched in trembling hands, stumbling into the mud as the artillery fell around us. Men screamed, heads burst like overripe fruit. And still we ran forward because to hesitate was death. The enemy met us with fire and steel. I saw men cut down in swaths, their bodies twitching as autogun rounds tore through them. I saw a woman stumble to her knees, begging for mercy, only for her collar to detonate, her head vanishing in a mist of blood and bone. I saw a commissar watching us through magnoculars, his pistol holstered, his finger resting lightly on the detonator. And I ran. I killed when I could. I stumbled when I must. But I never stopped running, because in the Penal Legion you do not fight to win. You fight to keep your head. There is no camaraderie among the damned. In the regular guard, soldiers form bonds, share rations, whisper of home. Here, trust is a weakness. A man may be your comrade one day, and the next he may betray you for an extra ration of corpse, starch, or a shorter shift in the trenches. We sleep in cages, dozens crammed together, the collars chiming when we jostle each other in the dark. The air reeks of sweat and blood. Food is thrown at us like scraps to dogs. Medical care is non-existent. If you are wounded, you either march forward with your guts spilling out, or you are left to rot. The priests preach to us of redemption, but their eyes are cold. They know we are already damned. And yet, for all this, some men cling to hope. They whisper of pardons, of sentences commuted for valor. They claim that if we fight hard enough, if we die in the right way, our families will be spared, our names cleansed. I do not believe it. The Imperium does not pardon. It only consumes. I have watched men embrace their deaths with smiles on their faces. I have seen them charge machine gun nests with nothing but bayonets, screaming hymns until their throats split, not because they thought they might win, but because they believed their sacrifice would wipe their slate clean. It is a madness, a fever that spreads among the Legion like a sickness. The idea that death can redeem a wasted life, that blood can erase the past. Perhaps they are right. Perhaps the Emperor, in his distant golden throne, does take notice of the condemned who die in his name. But I cannot shake the suspicion that he does not care, that he cannot care, that our skulls are as meaningless to him as to the enemy. There was a man in my unit, Sergeant Callis, once a soldier of renown before he struck an officer, in a drunken rage. They fitted him with the collar and cast him down among us, but he carried himself with a strange pride, as though the stain on his honor might yet be washed away. On the day of the assault, he led the charge. He climbed the barricade without hesitation, shouting for us to follow, his voice ringing clear above the din. He cut down 3 heretics before the rest overwhelmed him, stabbing him a dozen times until he fell. The officers declared him a hero. They said his courage had bought us victory. They recorded his name in the roll of honor, stripped his collar from his corpse, and pinned a medal to his lifeless chest. Then they threw the rest of us back into the cages. That was when I understood the truth. Valor in the Penal Legion is not for us. It is for them. Our courage, our deaths, our sacrifice. These are tools for the Imperium's propaganda. Nothing more. I do not know how long I have been here. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months. Battles come and go. The faces around me change, but always the collar remains, humming faintly against my throat. I no longer dream of survival. I no longer think of home. I write this only so that someone, someday, might understand what it means to serve in the Penal Legion. We are not soldiers. We are not martyrs. We are fuel. The Imperium feeds on us, burns us, spends us without thought. And still we fight, because there is no other choice. If I am fortunate, I will fall in battle. My collar silent, my head intact enough to be buried. If not, the collar will claim me, and my skull will scatter across the mud. Either way, I will be forgotten. And perhaps that is the true redemption of the Penal Legion, not glory, not honor, not forgiveness, but oblivion. The erasure of sin through the erasure of self.